Hello, travelers. Welcome to Life Between Flights, the podcast about travel industry, small business, and all of the interruptions in between. I am your host, Cecily North-Rudo, certified travel advisor. Today, I'm going to be interviewing my friend Kris Wilson-Slack, owner of Managers2Leaders. She is a leadership coach, but also does many other things. She's also an artist, and I really admire her for her experience, but also just her ability to talk with people and kind of understand their kind of where they're coming from and where they want to go and helping them get there. I met Kris through one of my networking groups through She Leads and heard her speak a couple times in that group. We always do like a thought-provoking question at the beginning of every meeting, and I've always just admired her answers, and she's just an absolute delight to talk to. And throughout this conversation, just finding how much more and more things we have in common. So I really hope that you enjoy this episode, and please reach out to Kris if you are needing help with figuring out what you're supposed to do in life or any sort of coaching within your own business. She can definitely help with that. And then also check out her art as well. Well, welcome everyone. Today we are speaking with Kris Wilson-Slack, Managers2Leaders, and also an artist. She does many, many things and wears many hats, just like me. So I am just going to say how we met. So as I've mentioned in other episodes, I am part of a networking group called She Leads, and we meet twice a month, and she is part of that group. I've heard her speak before, and just what she does speaks a lot to me as someone who has never officially held a management role, but as someone that has definitely been in leadership positions, and also owning a business obviously is a leadership role. And so I wanted to have her come on and talk about what she does in her business, but also kind of her journey into that and how she got to where she is now, and also talk about her art and all of the other things, because she just does all of the things just like many of us do. And so welcome, Kris. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Cecily.
So we're just going to start at the beginning. What led you to starting your own business?
I was desperate to get out of corporate.
Understand.
I've been in corporate. I was in corporate for about 36, 37 years, and started in computers. And I thought, first of all, computers, math, me, not something I ever thought I would do. I've been a writer all my life. And so I got into computers and I fell in love with it. And then I realized I would be the only woman in a room of 40 people. And that was pretty much that way my whole career, all the way to the end. I started in programming and computer operations and programming, and then kind of moved my way up through, being bossy. No, I'm kidding. Just going and kind of taking charge, Mm-hmm. When there's nobody in the room stepping up, I feel like I'm the one that's like, I'll do it. Let's just get it done, right? And I think that's the way a lot of people become leaders. So I moved into that. I moved into supervising call centers and then supervising programmers. And then I moved into whole-on product support, operations management. My last position, I was working as an operations senior manager / kind of director, and moving into handling operations for a professional services team and dealing with customers and dealing with internal people. It was kind of this mass operation. And then I finally said, you know what, I've been a leader for most of the time I've been in tech. And the one thing you don't see is investment in leadership. You see mass investment in leadership. You see it in, like, I'm going to take your team, which is 30 men and 2 women, and say, okay, let's go ahead and give you management training. But women and men are very different when it comes to leadership. And I felt like there was this huge need to be able to be a mentor, to be able to speak and help women move forward and be able to take the reins themselves, give them the authority, say, you got this, let's do this. And it's been such a joy to see. I still believe there's not enough women in tech, but I do believe that we can get there. And a lot of times it just needs somebody on your side.
100%. That's awesome. It's funny when you speak about, like, my dad was a computer programmer for years and years and years, and always hearing him talk about who he was working with. And it would be 1 or 2 women out of a team of, so many men. And that was also, like, I would go to his office quite often, and that's what I would see. It would just be like, and also, like, he would go skiing with all of his friends. You know, like it was just like, you know, totally the boys club most of the time. And there are like, he does have long time friends that he's known longer than I've been around. And it's a husband and wife team, and they met through work. And so it's nice to see the one woman, you know, that went through all of it and everything she's accomplished. So yeah, that's amazing. And I definitely appreciate that, especially the women's side of it. Because like when I was graduating high school, and one of the things I thought about was computer programming because I had seen my dad doing it. And I was like, well, I could do that.
Yeah.
Obviously not my interest at all, but it was that like, I know that there's a gap there. So what do you think is the best tip you have for new business owners?
I think the very first thing, and this is kind of my message when I'm talking about leaders too, is that one of the things we try to be is somebody else. We, you know, and there's that quote by Oscar Wilde that's, you know, about be yourself, everybody else is taken. You know, I live that. I try to live that because I feel like some of my first mistakes in management were trying to imitate other managers. Oh, well, they're successful. I should be like them. And I really realized that you have to find who you are. You have to find who your authentic self is. And, you know, when you don't have a mentor, you spend a long time trying to figure that out, making a lot of mistakes and maybe hurting along the way yourself or others. And I think that new business owners and new people in leadership in general, finding your own voice, your own values, your own strength, I think those are the things that you need to be able to do. And don't be afraid to be weird, you know, don't be afraid to be non-normal, you know, because I think that that's the way that's the hook that so many people need these days. There's so much normal out there. We need to be not normal sometimes. Yeah. I love that. That is very much how my husband and I think bonded over our weirdness. Us too.
You know, and I think that really is. And like a lot of our you know, like our friend group, you know, when you find your tribe and your people that you can talk about stuff with, it's because of your weirdness, right?
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, I think too, like, you know, in my travel business, and like we have a mentorship program and we have a whole team of people that are there for those new agents to be like, hey, if you have questions about, you know, you're booking your first group or you're booking your first cruise or whatever the niche thing is. And it's like, yeah, if you haven't experienced this before, there's a lot of ins and outs and there's a lot of things because you could potentially be financially responsible for your mistakes in addition to your clients are going to have a terrible time, you know, like all of those things. And so having someone to go to and having someone to either bounce ideas off of or be like, no, this is really best practice for this, that mentorship piece I think is huge. And also partially why I started this whole podcast was to kind of help be that mentorship for travel advisors, but also for small business owners and just having a forum for people to talk about, hey, I'm thinking of doing this, and having that, you know, tribe of people to be like, yes, that's a great idea. Or maybe we should think about this some more.
Let's take a step back.
Let's look at the big picture. All those corporate things. Well, talking about that. So this is my question that I had for you that wasn't on my pre-approved list. So what was the turning point for you to be like, hey, I'm going to start my own business? Like, what was that point for you where like, I'm going to do this and go out on my own?
Well, this isn't my first business, so I learned a lot with the other businesses. I had an on-site spa business, like an RV that goes along to different places, and I opened it up right at the beginning of the recession and without any foresight, and so that was not good. Previous to that, I actually had like a crafty kind of business, 20 years before that, and then I was in web design for a while. Because I was getting burnout on corporate. I was really getting burnout on the corporate speak, the lack of movement, the things you had to do to try to move up, just crazy stuff, lying to your teams. It was not me. It was just not me. And so this time I planned it. I said, we're going to step away from this. It was the last job that I had in the professional services team was really high stress, high impact. It was long hours, angry people a lot of the time. There were good sides to it too, but it's ongoing. It's an ongoing pressure. And so I planned for it. I planned for a couple years in advance. told my boss I'm going to be leaving. He said, "Can you stay one more year?" Like they always do.
Yep.
And so I did stay the extra year, but I just said, that's it. I'm done. I need a break. I'm going to take a step back for a second. When I was a lot younger, my first husband and he worked as a leader in IBM. And one of the things, and having this conversation in my 20s and 30s with him, was that I was no leader. I was not management material. I was not. And honestly, I probably wasn't. I needed a lot more time. I needed a lot more experience. And so now I got to this point, a couple years ago, and I just said, I've got it now. I know what I'm doing. I can do this. And so, and there were a lot of people who sought me out who weren't in my direct reports or anything like that, who wanted me to talk with them. And I said, I can do this. And getting close enough to retirement, I was like, okay, I can be validated. I can validate myself and do it. And it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
That stepping out of corporate, God, the relief,
Right.
And being able to actually help people. One of the things that I found out when I first started was that I could set this up however I wanted to. The freedom that you have, which is terrifying and also empowering. And I think that when you decide that you're going to be who you're going to be, you find that authenticity, you can blow the socks off everything, right? It just takes a little bit of time and grit, that kind of thing, and then you got it. You can do it.
Yeah, I love that. I was also thinking too, going back to the 20s and the 30s and just what you thought your life was going to be like, or what you thought your career was going to be like.
Yeah.
And now looking at it now, and it's like, oh, that certainly was not the path that I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. I mean, it's definitely what got me here. So no, I mean, it was like, I joke that the job I had that led me to my travel career was the hardest job I've ever had. And there were many days of tears and many days of just, what am I doing? Why did I think I would be good at this? Like just all of those doubts. But it led to, hey, I need to do something for me. That 11 years later, it's like, oh yeah, and once you get your confidence in yourself, and you're like, oh yeah, like I got this. I know what I'm doing. And sometimes that can take a really long time, and sometimes it can be instant. I think that's such a wise thing to say. And I think too, if people are starting businesses in their 20s or maybe even their early 30s, I think there's just kind of knowing that it might take a little bit, right? And knowing that even if you're starting out a lot younger than we did in all of this, it's like, no, if you've got your people and the right support around you, that you can kind of look at it and be like, oh, okay, like it might take me a little bit to get there, but I know like I just need a little bit more experience, or I just need, whatever that is to get there.
I think that support group is really important. I didn't have that in my 20s and 30s, and obviously, I didn't have that.
Yep.
But I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I think a lot of it is poking around and trying different things. And I think we still come out of it at the end with imposter syndrome. I think especially most of us who have mostly women, and mostly if we've had lives where we've had to overcome things, and we just, but you have a life of service to people, you don't believe in yourself. You're like, I can always do better. I can always do more. I can always, and it's like, yeah, we can, but we can also enjoy the moment of what we've been doing very well.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And yeah, there's so many women that I talk to. I mean, obviously in my library life, surrounded by women mostly, although it's interesting, most directors are male. And
Funny.
So it's interesting talking to so many women where they may be in a management position. They have multiple children. They're running multiple, a good friend of mine who literally had a medical episode at work from the stress. And it's like, you don't need to do all of the things. Like it's hurting you to try to do above and beyond what anybody would ever expect of you.
Yeah.
And so I think that imposter syndrome really gets to so many of us all of the time. I mean, regardless of how long you've been in your job, your career, whatever, it always sneaks up on you, especially when somebody, like I just had a conversation with a new client the other day, and they were questioning everything about my business. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, why are you asking me? And I had the right responses. And I think I kind of calmed her down in that. But it was just like, I've never had someone question if I'm going to answer a phone call at 2 a.m. I'm like, yeah, that's the job. Like, wherever you are in the world, I'm answering the phone call. Like, that's what my business is. And so it's things like that where it's like, why would you question me? You know?
Yeah.
And so things like that too and I think it's because as women, we have to be like, oh, because I have to do all of these things and I have to wear all of the hats and I have to make sure that my household is running okay because no one else is. And I have to make sure the kids are getting, like, because you don't have, I mean, I'm very lucky that my husband is very supportive and can be around and do all that stuff, but not all of us have that.
That's true. Yeah.
And, and right now, like during the holidays and you're like, I keep seeing the meme of like, husbands, it's your job to fill your wife's stocking.
Not your wife's job to fill
job to fill her own stocking, which just cracks me up because I'm like, there's that whole part of it too. And just in life in general. But yeah, I think there's definitely the observations that we have as we get older, but that imposter syndrome, I don't think ever really goes away.
I don't think it ever does. And I think it's that fear of being judged, and I think we get better at it. But I think that, even today, next month, I'm going to be giving a talk on leadership and AI. All I know about AI is what I know about it, right? And I can do research and I can do those things. Somebody may ask me a question that I just go, I don't know. Yeah. But I'm learning to say, I don't know, but let's find out together. And that's the joy of having your own business because you actually get to be yourself and learn and work with other people,
Yeah, I love that. All right, next question. What has been your biggest challenge and how have you overcome it, or is it still a challenge?
I think my biggest challenge is as a coach, as a leadership coach, I think that you have to put yourself out there a lot. I've always been an introvert. And so, I get my energy by being alone and reading and writing and doing art, and all of those things. And it is a challenge for me to stand up in front of people, kind of going back to the imposter syndrome and talking a little bit about who I am and what I do. We do commercials with our networking group. And even when I do commercials, I'm like, don't panic, don't panic, don't panic. It's crazy. And I know everybody, and everybody is so supportive and so welcoming and just beautiful people. And I'm like, what is wrong? It's like there's, even after you kind of work at it for a while, I've talked to hundreds of people at a time, done Zoom, I've stood up in front of a room of angry customers and let them yell at me, right? And survived. And it's like, you still get it. You still get it. So I think it's just a matter of just continuing to put yourself out there and continuing to do it, continuing to be authentic and being who you are and not being afraid of that, especially if you've spent a childhood or a life where you're supposed to be something else, right? So I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I love that because I'm an extroverted introvert. Like I like getting up in front of people and talking. Public speaking is not the issue for me. The one-on-one conversations are harder for me. Yeah, making eye contact is really hard for me. Like, okay, so here's a tip for anybody that's really nervous about interviews and making eye contact. So since I've had glasses since, well, I should have had them in junior high, but I got them in high school. And when I was actually going out to interviews for my first job, I wouldn't wear my glasses. So I knew I could look at someone, but not actually have to make eye contact. Like I was close enough. I could tell I'm seeing them in the eye, but it didn't bother me as much.
I have so done that.
I'm like, and it's just, it's silly, but it's like, that for me, even like my husband and I on our first date, like we sat next to each other in a restaurant because I'm like, I don't think I can look him in the eye. Like I was so nervous and just like, and it's, I mean, I know we both were, but it was like, if we sit next to each other, we don't really have to look at each other. And that was fine for us. But it's funny, like, just putting yourself out there in whatever format that is. And also like, especially when it's your business, it's like, oh, it's me. Yeah. Like I have no one to fall back on. It's all just me and feeling comfortable with that. And it's funny you say the thing about like, even in our networking groups, I get the same way. Like I have my same elevator speech I give multiple times a week to all of the networking groups. And every time I'm like, wait, what am I saying? Like,
where am I in the spiel?
What's my business? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was terrified to put my art out.
Yeah.
I'm terrified to put writing and art out because it's like, what if somebody hates it? So what?
Right.
But it's one of those things you think about, especially as a people pleaser and a service person, right? If you have a service business, you want to make people happy, and not making them happy makes you feel like you're not really doing the best, or you're not a good person, or whatever it might be.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I have a group of agents that we have a group chat. And anytime that I have a thing with a client where I'm like, well, now I feel like the worst person in the world, or, this person said this and they're like, we get it, and it's like, but it's not a reflection on you. Like
Right.
it's all, and so having to also keep that in mind too. And it's like, and that's the thing about it with it's all you, and you're putting yourself out there. And if someone doesn't like it, or if they change their mind and they say terrible things to you, and then it's like, it's hard, obviously you're going to take it personally because it's your business, but it's also, you have to remember that like, this was one person out of the millions of people out there, and all of that stuff.
It's kind of, it's interesting. I had an experience a while ago, I was going to say a couple months ago, I think it was, where somebody said to me, and it was an odd conversation. It was, I don't have anything to say to you. We don't have anything to talk about. I thought, oh, I'm so sad for you because you're not curious, but that's not me.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things, like it was a little light bulb that went on in my head and went, oh, it's not me. It's crazy when that happens, but it's like, and it's been happening. Once it happens once, it starts happening more and more. And you start realizing it isn't you. It is, you can just be you.
Yep.
Your shoulders can relax. You can just be you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I've talked to other business owners and other networking groups, and they'll be like, oh, well, your business is too small. I don't want to work with you. And it's like, oh,
okay,
that's fine. You have no idea how big my network is. Like, you have no idea what you're missing out on.
Exactly.
And I definitely have learned the same thing of just like, it's not worth my time.
Yeah. I'm not going to try to convince somebody to like me, like my business, like my things. Just like, if you're not curious enough to know, you're probably not somebody that would do really well with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. All right. Another question. What is the best advice you've ever received? And that can be life advice or business advice, whatever you've held on to for a long time.
Leadership coaching is life coaching. We just talk about that. I would say the best advice is about being yourself. It's really hard in this world. There's messages, I think there's messages we don't even know about that are coming at us, telling us we have to be this way. If we work in a corporate environment or work for a large agency or something, they're saying, this is the image we want to portray. Whether they say it or not, they're doing it. They're feeding you what you should say. They're feeding you what you should think and all of that. It is so hard to realize, I think, that we can be ourselves and still be okay and be safe and be great people and great business owners and great leaders, right? I think it's about being authentic. And that was probably the best advice I got, was like, everybody else is taken. I'm going to be myself, So I'm going to be just as weird and get over it.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. So kind of talking about leadership and all of that kind of stuff from my own experience in both the library world and other jobs and all of that stuff. Like I've been through a leadership program. It was a 2-year program where the first year was really practicing skills, and then the second year we did project work. And so I kind of that in the back of my mind at times, because I think and it was all women. There was 10 of us. And, when you spend 2 years together and you're meeting every month, and plus we were all working together. So it's like, and now that group, I think there's 3 of us left that are working together.
Yeah.
Everyone else has gone on to their jobs or retired or whatever. So it's funny, and that was more than 15 years ago that we did that. And so it's kind of funny now because the 3 of us have never actually moved into a leadership position. Like we're kind of basically where we were in the leadership thing, which is not, but also I think we're all in the jobs that we wanted to be in.
Right.
Like I didn't want to be in a management position, but I know that I know that I'm leading from where I'm at. I don't have to have the manager title for that. And I think too, owning my own business is like, well, yeah, I'm managing that, but I'm leading that as well. What are your thoughts on leadership programs like that, or whatever you've seen in your corporate world? Do you feel like they're useful? Do you think they're just like trying to make the management feel good that they're doing something, or do you think that there's some kind of like actual succession planning in that kind of program?
There's a lot to unpack there. I think management programs, so let's take that step back again. Women and men lead differently. Women are very communal and men are very agentic, right? So they're going to be pushing for the ideas that they have. They're pushing for themselves, not a bad thing, right? We have to be our own best advocate. Women tend to do, we did it together. We do it as a group, right? Most leadership programs talk about individual situations, but they don't really talk about the aspect of how we lead. They talk about the mechanics of how you lead. When you have a one-on-one, look at somebody in the eye, make sure that you just give them the facts, don't be emotional, you know. And a lot of that comes from an agentic point of view. And so I find that leadership programs are a good place to kind of get some background. But over the years, what I've also seen is that leadership programs are very trendy. You know, somebody is going to be selling something. It's either your StrengthsFinder or it's going to be your Myers-Briggs. And I'm certified in all of those. I do those, but they're not the way to lead. What they're to do is give you an insight into who you are, and then you find the best way to lead. It's kind of like parenting, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm not. I've had stepchildren, but I'm not a parent. But you know that all of your kids are different, and they're going to need different types of interaction. Men don't necessarily, they want to hear facts, right? And some of the women are going to want to hear how we're doing it all together. And you know, again, I'm generalizing because everybody is an individual and everybody is unique. But I think leadership programs tend to go to a certain baseline of tactical. They're not really strategic, and they're not really addressing the differences in people. And we want to celebrate those differences. It's that authenticity that you really want. If you're the kind of person that finds humor the best way to communicate with people, it's not for me, but it's for them. And you will find your path. You will make mistakes, but you will find your path and you will find your way. So I don't think they're bad. I just don't think that they're really something that will get you to that next level. Right? It's about taking kind of some of that information and then just figuring out your own path. And for the three of you, it's probably very different.
Yeah, when you were talking about that in the communal aspect. So obviously we were 10 women. We met every month. Our slogan became "No one gets screwed."
Yeah.
That was, and literally I made bookmarks for all of them at the end that said "No one gets screwed." Because it was like when the second year was, we had 2 projects to work on and they gave us options. And so it was like everybody had to pick one. So that was where the "no one got screwed came from, was that we all wanted to be like, everyone got the project they wanted to work on.
Yeah.
And not be forced into something that you didn't want to work on. So yeah. And it's funny, like now looking back on it so many years later, I'm like, yeah, it was time management. Mm-hmm. It was crucial conversations. It was emotional intelligence. It was all of those things, which when we took the emotional intelligence class, I felt like such a fish out of water because like the test that we had to take was, to me, and I fibbed a little bit because I'm like, it shows that I have 0 emotional intelligence. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. Like, I just don't believe
I don't believe that
this
either.
test that I have 0 emotional intelligence. And yeah, and I think too, like at that time, like I had gotten engaged to my first husband, and that was a whole thing. But you know, like that again, if we went back now and did all of that stuff again, like just how different my perspective
Completely
would be
different.
on all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really like, yeah, looking back at the 3 of us that are here, that are still here. And it's like, we have really gotten to craft our positions to be what we want them to be.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. I don't think a lot of people get that opportunity in kind of a corporate
It's true. Yeah.
world. And that's really where our passions lie. And so I think was probably maybe more what leadership was thinking, was like, yes, we can see the potential for these people, And some of them did move up and do other things, but it was just I don't know. It's kind of weird to look back on it now and be like, was that a total waste of time? Like,
Yeah, no,
it wasn't. I know it wasn't,
I'm sure.
but it was definitely, and also like at the time, I will say, because it was an application process. So I think there were 20 people that applied the first year. 10 of us got chosen, and there was some animosity around it.
From the ones that weren't chosen?
Yeah, from the others that weren't chosen. And it kind of like, and that's also weird when it's like people that you work with and see every single day.
Of course.
It's like, well, I don't know why they chose me over you. Like, maybe I just interviewed better that day or whatever. And so, and it's just interesting. Like, and I also, in a future job, I did through Mountain States Employers Council, I did some trainings with them and some programs and like other things with them. The thing that stuck out with me out of all of the times that I went up to Denver and sat in their classrooms for like 8 hours, the one thing that struck me was they made us watch a video, and it was basically like, okay, you're getting called it. You've gotten a request from your boss that you're going to meet with them at this time. You don't know why, and so then it's like, like you always go to the worst case scenario.
It's human nature.
Yeah, and then it was like, okay, now have that. Like, okay, the worst thing is you get fired. Okay, what's half of that? Oh, maybe you're going to get reprimanded for something, but you're not losing your job. Maybe it's you're just getting reprimanded for something.
Right.
Now have that again.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe you missed a shift or you came in late and they just want to know why.
Right.
And it was like, just keep having it until like going from the extreme and just talking yourself off the ledge.
That's useful.
And so that's the one thing and it's also funny if you've ever seen Love Actually. Colin from Love Actually is the guy that's in this video. So I think that's more why it stuck out to me. But that's another thing that has stuck with me of like, okay, if this is worst case scenario, let's have it and let's have it again. And then so then you're kind of getting more into a realistic, this is why they want to talk to you. And it's never about what you think,
It's never about that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I think if you are going to get called to the carpet, right? I think I do something similar. I love that though. I might take that. I think what I like to do, and I do this for myself, and I have done it with other people as well, but you think same kind of thing. Oh, I'm in this community and I'm in this neighborhood and I live here and somebody that runs the community wants to talk to me. Okay. All right. What's the worst that could happen? I could have to move or a fire comes through in the forest and I lose my house and I lose all my things. I don't want to think about my cats or my husband, but okay, what's the worst that could happen? All of this happens. Okay. Then what? And you start playing the, okay, what's next? Because I think a lot of times we get lost in that loop, like that first loop of, okay, what's going to happen? And we never get out of it. Having it, I love that. I think I love the idea of just saying, okay, let's play it out. Let's play it out. My friends won't let that happen to me. I may couch surf. I still have all of my thoughts, my business. I have these things. I just have to slowly rebuild and find a way. And I will, Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's that Anna Duckworth has a book called Grit. I don't know if you've read it, but it's a good book. It's about some people disagree with it, but what does it take to keep going? What does it take to kind of get through some of those negative times and negative things?
It's funny. I know this is going to sound silly to some. Some people meditate, some people pray. I watch tarot videos on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
So there's one woman that I follow, and I've been following her for a while now, and it's literally yesterday, her video, it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, okay, if this is the situation, just in your head, how do you react? What is your response? Like, just start practicing it, because if something happens, and it was, her example was like an ex comes to your door and they either say, I never want to speak to you again, or they're trying to win you back. Yeah. And it was like, just in your head, just like, what would you say?
Play the scenario.
Yeah, just play the scenario. And I was just like, wow. Like and I'm like, definitely exes are not coming back to my doorstep. But I'm like,
mine neither.
But like, just thinking about like, okay, if a client comes to me and they have a complaint, or, or clients that have had complaints, and not that they've had complaints, but like they've had an issue with a hotel or whatever. And it's like, okay, so what do I do? What are my steps to resolve that? Or also, like I serve on a board right now. I'm about to be done, but there's some things I need to do before I'm done with that. It's like, okay, well, when this comes up, because I know they're going to bring up like, we're working on nominations for next year. And I know I'm going to have to be prepared for this. So let me just think about it now. Like, what are my steps? Because it's always pulling teeth to get people to serve on this board. So I'm like, okay, what's going to be my like charming, charismatic thing that I can say to get people to serve on this board? But it's all the same. Like I'm driving in my car at least an hour every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, what else am I doing?
Right.
And so, yeah, like just doing it in your mind and practicing all of those different things is like, yeah, that's mind blowing for me. So
I used to do that exact same thing, especially when I was younger. I would have plan A, plan B, plan C. Well, if this happens, then I'll do this. And if this happens, I'll do this. And I think as you get older and as you get more confident and you run into more situations, you can go, okay, I can wing it and I'm going to be okay. Right. It gets there. It does get there. It's just practice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas I'm the one that's always winging it. And I'm like, no, if I just think about it for a little bit, maybe it'll go a little bit better.
Oh, I imagined this. Let me see what I can do with that.
Yeah. Like, let's just think about it for a little bit. Like, that's definitely, where I'm at. And it's so funny too, like being, my husband and, there's a lot of anxiety in the family. And so knowing that, and being able to talk with him and be like, okay, let's talk about this. Like right now we're having a whole bunch of house stuff and it's like, okay, let's just talk about this. Like what happens if this doesn't happen by the end of December? Like,
right.
Okay, then what do we do? And it's like, really nothing's changed, but it's just, and finding, realizing that in other people too.
Right.
Like, no, like, let's talk about it. Let's plan if you're having the anxiety about it, let's talk about it and let's have a plan. Yeah. So that when you're spiraling in your head, you can go back to this conversation and what's really happening.
It's really important. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So I've gone through all my big questions, but let's talk about your art for a second. So tell me about your art and what you love about it and why it feeds your soul.
Well, I've always been a writer. Ever since I was a little kid, the first thing I did was win like a Mother's Day newspaper contest when I was like 7 or 8. And I was like, okay, writing, it's fun. I like it. I can do it. It doesn't involve much. And that kind of, that's fed me for my entire life. I've published in books, anthologies, articles. I've edited all kinds of different things. And then I finally, like last year, especially when you start a business, you focus so much on it. And for that first year and a half, I focused a ton of time on it. Social media, doing presentations, talking with people, whatever it might be, right? You put your heart and soul into it. And then about June, things started slowing down last year. And I went to go house sit for a friend of mine he's kind of an all-around artist, musician, does a lot of different things. And while I was there, he gave me a set of watercolors and some paper and some brushes. And I was like, okay, I do stick figures. Yep. Well, why are you giving me this? He goes, you should just try it. And I actually had another coach. She does the thing on quantum, basically using quantum energy to help yourself, right? And she said, I said, well, I kind of got this vision about a tree. And she goes, paint it. And I was like, I'm not a painter, I'm going to use AI to create it, right? And then I got home and I just started listening to YouTube videos and I was really feeling depressed about everything. And when I started doing it, I was like, oh, I've been missing this. I've been missing color. I've been missing putting myself out. It's very different than writing. It's very different than that. For me, it's like, I'm still in the baby stages of it, I feel. And so it's been a year and a half and I've just enjoyed the freedom it gives your mind and the freedom to be creative. And then you can kind of turn back to your business and whatever it is, your life, and go, oh, I can think differently about this. I can add some color here, color in a metaphorical sense, right? But I can add some color here and it makes it better. I have a friend who, one of my closest, dearest, longest running friends. We owned a house together in San Francisco. We did a lot of different things. And she's an artist. She's an oil painter. And I thought, I'm not an artist. She's the artist, right? But I realize that the way she's always done her art has been through an emotional connection. And I think, especially when we start our businesses, we tend to go mental, right? Sometimes we go really mental, but you know what I mean? And we forget about that love and that connectivity. I do that with people, but for myself, it's not exactly easy. So the art really kind of came out of that. I found a few artists that I really liked and I followed on YouTube. And then last year, somebody said, I would buy cards if you had those on them, or I would buy a mug. And I was like, okay. So I just popped up an Etsy store and started doing it. And then just realized that creativity really is, you can't, when you have a business, when you have a leadership position, you can't be all outward going for other people. You kind of have to take that time and go inward. So it's been a joy. It's been a real joy for me.
I love that. I'm also jealous because, I can't draw. My mom's one of those people that can draw from memory.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
it's like 3D real. I mean,
yeah,
she's amazing. And that's what I lived with, grew up with. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not that.
Yeah.
And my second husband was a graphic designer and he can paint anything. And, and it's like, he just has that talent. It's like, yep, that's not me, but I cross stitch. And so that's been my,
nice.
Going back to, again, finding like when I feel like I should be doing X, Y, Z. And now I'm like, oh no, I need to take 30 minutes and just stitch for a little bit and just let my hands be busy and just zone out for a little bit. And so that's my art. I always say I color with thread.
I love it. It's interesting. There's like this big thing in art stores now because, art supplies, got to have them.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. You have to own all of it.
All of it. I want every color,
yes.
every brush, every color, every paper.
Yep.
But they're picking up a lot of needlecraft, like a cross stitch, crewel, embroidery, everything.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, I just, because I got to have my own Christmas present.
Yep.
I got a mystery box from St. Louis Art Supply, and they sent it, and you never know what's in it.
Yeah.
Right? It's exactly everything I never do. It's about charcoals and clay and embroidery thread with I'm like, okay, I got a whole new frontier to start. I love it.
That's so funny. So I don't know if you've seen, and now I'm not going to remember what they're called now, but they're the little crochet things and you make different characters.
Oh, wobbles.
Yes.
Yes.
So I got addicted to those and I don't crochet. My mom knits and crochets and she's wanted to teach me for 45 years. And so I bought one and then I got addicted to it. But my kiddo, who's only 4, she sees the needle and yarn and she's like, oh, I want to do that. So I can't do it in front of her.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a whole bunch of them and I've only completed one because I can only find time when I'm not around her to do it. And then it's a whole thing. But it's so funny. I was like, nope, now my mom's going to be mad at me because I'm finally crocheting after 45 years that she's wanted me to do this. And but that's the thing, like just finding the time to do that, especially when we're trying to do all of the things. It's like, no, you just need to take a step back to do that.
You need to make yourself do it. And I there's times when the first year I was doing it, so from last June in 24 to this June, I was pretty much doing it every day. And I was like, I'm going to go downstairs into my little art hut area and just do something. The last couple months, it's only been like maybe twice a week and I can feel it.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. When your Apple Watch or whatever is yelling at you to get up and walk, go paint.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny. My sister-in-law, so she owns her own accounting firm, again, does all the things, wears all the hats, has the kids running around doing all of that stuff. And she also cross-stitches. And so she's like, my goal is to cross-stitch 1 hour a week. Like if I can have an hour to just sit and just do it, then I'm good for the week. And so, and it's so I've kind of kept that in my mind of like, if I can have an hour, even if it's 20 minutes a day or whatever, if I can get an hour done in a week, I'll feel like, okay, I've taken that time for me and not feel guilty about it, all of that stuff.
Yeah. So I love my art. It makes me happy. I do things that are silly and I like it. Kooky. So the art business is at Leaflark Art, all one word, .etsy.com. I only had an Etsy store because I was just like, oh no, fling it up there and see what happens. My coaching business is Managers2Leaders, 2Leaders.com. I can also be found at Kris, Kris, at Managers2Leaders.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I am on my arts on Instagram, and I do have a Facebook page for for Managers to Leaders as well. So I'm kind of in all the different spaces, just not all the same spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also do once a month free webinars. I announce them on LinkedIn, but they can also get on my mailing list, and I'll make sure that they get them there. I do some small classes. We'll probably be doing one in the beginning of the year on leadership and AI for you, your team, and your company. How you can actually do it without not going crazy or trying to follow what everybody else is doing. So I think that'll be fun.
Okay, we're going to do the fun questions. So how does travel inspire or reset you as a business owner, leader, creator?
Oh my God, I love travel. You know, I was just thinking about this the other day. So I have been traveling every month for about the last 14 years to locations that are domestic. And that's great, right? But it's really when you pull yourself out of your own country, your own culture, and go somewhere else that I think that you really get stimulated. It's kind of like what we talk about with creativity. I had told this to somebody else. It's like every 7 years at maximum, I need to go somewhere for a couple of weeks. Just when COVID started, I went to Chile. I was in Chile and Brazil for a couple of weeks. And that was amazing. And just met friends, just had a great time, learned a lot. And I lived in Germany for 2.5 years. So every time that I could, it was like, where can I go this weekend? And so many places I didn't even see. So the next trip is Norway and Denmark and Scandinavia. I know we've talked about it.
Yeah.
And it just, it gives me ideas. You know, it gives me ideas for art. It gives me ideas for how people are. I think if you're not curious about the world and curious about other people, other cultures, other things, anything, I get bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally understand that. I love that. Has travel ever changed something about the way you lead, create, or work?
Yes. So when I lived in Germany, like I said, for a couple of years, and I was in an office, it taught me a whole different corporate culture. And they were a little weird because in Germany, when I was there, so this was in the mid-90s, everybody in most of Germany, you speak in a formal way with people. Mm-hmm. I didn't know a stick of German when I got there. Mm-hmm. And I went into this office and they all used informal speaking. And then I would have to go out to a customer and learn different language. And so what I learned about them was they were very informal, but not every office is the same. So even if it's the same company you work for, not every office is the same. I also, I did experience some kind of abuse sort of thing. I don't really want to call it abuse, but it shocked me, right? It was harassment, I guess is the better word for it, not abuse. Harassment, where, you have the old expat guy who comes along and pats you on the butt while you're walking down the thing. And I was like, okay, learned what I don't want to tolerate. And how can I deal with that in those things? And so it was good to be out of my familiar situation of like, you can't always be in the United States. But for being there, it was empowering to be able to create my own boundaries, right? And I think that when you move from job to job to job, or you start your own business and you deal with different people, you learn that obviously we're not all the same. You don't compromise your boundaries, your values, and your authenticity. You compromise how what your curiosity is about them, how you interact with them. Make sure that you're clear. You may not always get the result that you want, but you can be a little bit more flexible, I guess is a good way to put it.
If you could take your team, your clients, or community on a dream retreat, where would you go and why?
Oh, my. I love living in the trees. And I love the beach, and don't get me wrong, but I'm laughing because my husband thinks I'm crazy. I have this goal. I want to go to Lubeck, Maine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's like, why do you want to go to Maine? You've never even been to Maine. Yeah. Why do you want to live at Maine? It's the easternmost part of the United States, right? It's really close to Newfoundland, right? And I would love, I have a big heart for Canada. So it would be somewhere kind of in that extreme Northeast and maybe lower Canada where I could just go and just see a whole different way of being and see a whole different life.
Yeah.
Because I grew up on the West Coast. I would love to see that part of the East Coast.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always had an affinity for New England, but Maine is just such a beautiful area, and it's so much more like going to Acadia and just like going along the coast, and it's just it's a different pace than here, and it's like you still get the trees, but you're at the ocean. Like it's just kind of like a little bit different than even when you're thinking about like Washington, or like it's just a different thing. And also like we went up Cadillac Mountain and watched the sunrise, which was we are not early risers. It was a very bad idea. Like we were so tired, and we were only there with a handful of people. I mean, but it was cool to be like, yep, we got to see the sunrise before anybody else in the country, all of that stuff. But it was like, man, this was really early. And it was also the same day we were checking out of our hotel. So it was a whole thing. But
it's funny. I have some friends who live in New Hampshire. They were my husband's boss for a while and got to know them and everything. And I told them I want to go to Lubec, Maine. And they were like, they're weird there. I'm like, perfect. I love it.
Also, when we were there, because we spent a week driving around like Bangor and Portland and like went up the coast and whatever. And they have a very high amount of mattress stores. Like everywhere we went, there were multiple mattress stores. And there was even a truck in front of us at one point that was like, make your own mattress.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, what do they have about mattresses up here though? It just was a really high amount of mattress advertising.
That's wild.
But yeah, it just cracked me up every single time I'd be like, there's another mattress store. I don't know. It was really funny. Yeah, but Maine's great. What travel experiences taught you the most about work-life balance?
I was not a scuba diver, and I wanted to go scuba diving. I was through my divorce. I was kind of in that weird place, and everything was stressful. I had just gotten back from Germany. I had moved back. My husband was living in a different place, and so hence the divorce. Things were just not going well. And so my company offered a sabbatical, and I thought, well, I'm going to take that, right? Free vacation. I love it. And I had never been to the Caribbean. So I went to Grand Cayman. And I stayed in a little dive lodge in the middle. It was kind of a little dive lodge, right? In the middle of nowhere. And I went scuba diving. And when I remember one of the days I got up in the morning, the day I didn't scuba dive, I got up in the morning, I laid in the hammock, I read, I fell asleep. I turned over when the sun moved. I read some more. I got up, ate dinner, and went to bed, right? No TVs, nothing like that. Yeah. And I really realized that I needed that every once in a while. I was in my, early 30s, and I was kind of like, oh, this is why people take real vacations. This is why we're not all workaholics. And I really realized that I needed that every so often. So my rule is not more than 7 years between times. I'm coming up on that, Cecily.
Yep. We're going to get you somewhere.
Yeah.
I love that. It's funny when you mentioned that. So I lived in New York. I did an internship in New York in 2004. So this is pre-smartphones. I think I lived in a women's dorm. So I was working out there, but like no smartphones. I had no internet in my room. I didn't have a TV.
Yeah.
So I cross-stitched a lot. And also it got me out. Like I would go out with coworkers almost every night and just go wander around New York. Like we were very close to, I lived right down the street from the Empire State Building. But it is like, I'm like, if I had to go back to not having a smartphone, not having internet, I'm like, oh. And that's the thing.
Tempting.
I think for vacation, it's like when I'm on a cruise ship and it's like, if you turn on, it's in airplane mode. I mean, we get the Wi-Fi package, but that's really just so that I can text, for kiddo being home and all of that.
I'm alive.
Yeah. And be like, but really, and also because you need the app to do all the things on the ship, but it's like,
right, yeah.
Just to be turned off from everything else for a couple of days. And then you come back and you get all of the emails. But yeah, I think that's absolutely.
It's essential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just, and to just turn off everything for a while, and also being with whoever you're traveling with and being like, oh, we actually have to like talk to each other.
Yeah. we can communicate.
Yeah. We don't need all the distractions. Okay. Last question.
Sure.
If money, time, and logistics weren't a thing, what's your dream trip?
The one I'm going to talk to you about. I would love to take that I would love to take a really long cruise on the side of Norway, drop into Iceland for a little bit and come back to Norway. I want to see the Northern Lights. I want to go to Lapland of all places. Maybe we'll take that cruise over to Lubeck, Maine.
Yep. We'll do transatlantic.
Yeah.
Great.
I am not an around the world kind of person. I'm more of a, I like Europe. We are talking, I belong to a nonprofit organization and we're going to be doing some traveling. I think next year we're going to be going to Jordan as a group. I'm going to talk to them about it. If we do that, I want to go to Turkey, but that's kind of as far into, Asia-ish as I really want to go. I just don't have an interest. I like knowing about it, but I just don't have an interest.
Yeah.
So it's all Europe and Canada and the Arctic. For some reason, I need to be in the Arctic.
Yeah. That's so fun. It's funny, talking to clients and also talking to family and friends. And, I joke, I'm a lizard. I like the desert. I like the Caribbean. I like being warm. I don't like very much the opposite of you. I don't like the cold. I don't like rain. I don't like there's just very specific places that I would be very, very happy. But I am very there's just so many places in the world I want to see just to be like, I saw it and I've been there and I've experienced it and all of that. And also I always joke I live vicariously through my clients because I don't get to travel as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
But planning the trips helps me kind of feel like I've been there. And so it's just funny when you're talking to people and there's people that are like, I have absolutely no interest in the ocean. Like I want to be in the mountains all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But it's just so different than how I love the mountains, but I'm like, if I given the choice, that isn't my first choice. Although Maine, I'm with you. For some reason, we'll go to Maine together. But it is, and it's like seeing the north. My daughter's been watching this show called Dinosaur Train.
Okay.
She's completely obsessed with it. And there's an episode where they go see the Aurora Borealis. And so she's 4. And so she's really trying very hard to say Aurora Borealis. And so I was like, yeah, someday we'll get up there. We'll get you, you can see it. And it's just, but also anything she asks for, I'm like, yep, we'll go do that. Whatever you want to do, we'll make it happen. But yeah, it's just so funny how everyone has, again, going back to also small business, how, you yourself have your own preferences and your clients have their own preferences and like the things that they're interested, the things that they're not interested in. And it's so funny to kind of learn that through whatever meeting, whatever it's just especially as a coach and as someone that's talking to people all the time and you get to like see all of those little things and see like, oh, this is where your interests are. And let's, you see the joy in all of those little things. And so that's,
it's so nice when you can tap into your own curiosity and find that joy in other people. And just, it's like, oh, this is so good. I love it.
Yeah. There's got to be some, here's just a random question along those lines. So what's the most rewarding thing about your business? Like, what's the thing that just like lights you up?
When somebody comes back to me, my program goes from you got a question you need to get through all the way to finding out what your ikigai is. And ikigai is your purpose for being and your thing about who you are, right? And they're all different things. And when I work with somebody and we get to the point, I'm thinking of one particular client, she was in the military, got retired from the military, went into corporate and was having a really difficult time. And we went through the whole thing together and got to her ikigai and her relief and joy and just like, I got this, I can move forward. That makes me so happy. My tagline for a long time was finding joy in your success. And I don't know how to really relate that to other people, except that it's just so fulfilling to see somebody else move forward and be happy because there's so much unhappiness in this world.
Yeah.
And we create a lot of unhappiness for ourselves. So how can we find that joy? We need joy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my library director, one of my favorite sayings of his is suffering is optional.
Yes.
And so, that's just, that sticks with me all the time. And it's very much like, and I think too, like, especially in your business, like sometimes we need that outside perspective to be like, hey, this is where you're stuck. Let's get, let's use some other tools to help you get unstuck and help you find that joy in whatever it is. I mean, obviously we need people working in corporate. Not everyone can go out and do their own thing, but there's definitely, and I think too, like I talk a lot about podcasts, like obviously I have a full-time job, but then I'm doing the travel stuff because that's the stuff that excites me and is the stuff that's I'm passionate about and I love doing it. but I still need the constant income.
I know.
And it's also, I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years now, and it's like obviously something I love and I'm very passionate about.
Very passionate.
But it's like, just to have that little bit of something else that can spark that joy where you're helping others in a different way.
You want a couple weird stats?
Yes, I sure do.
So only about 10% of our businesses in the United States are corporations. Oh, wow. Almost 90% of them are small business owners. Amazing. We are the ones that move the world, And I think that we're kind of going back to the joy thing. And I think that when we go back to authenticity is when we find joy. It's a weird stat, and I didn't really believe it, but I started talking to people, is that about only 25 to 30% of people know what their true values are. And you go, what? No, but you talk to people and they're so confident. But if you actually sat down and said, so do you value humor? Well, yeah, I value it. But is it one of your core values? Mm-hmm. So that authenticity, I think, is so important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was going to ask, maybe we do a whole other episode on core values.
I love it. We can go through my assessment and we'll do it.
I would love that, actually. Yeah, because I was going to ask about core values and I'm like, this is already over an hour. So we can talk about core values at another time because I don't know what mine are. I mean, I've done things and I know what the libraries are, but I think that would be really, really fun.
We should have fun.
Yeah, that would be awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kris, for coming. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for being the guinea pig because you're my first interview.
Thank you, Cecily. It's been a real pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed my conversation with Kris Wilson-Slack. It was definitely such an enjoyable hour with her. I know that I ended up learning a lot from our conversation and know that we have a whole lot more in common. And I truly just think she's just such a joy. And I love hearing her speak and hearing her talk about her business, but also seeing her art and all of the things. And I know that she's just someone that has a similar vibe to me. And we are definitely going to take that trip to Maine. Well, with that, make sure to subscribe so that you're following along with new episodes every Thursday. Our next episodes will be talking about marketing and networking and all kinds of things like that. Until next time, safe travels and may your luggage follow you wherever you go. Today's episode of Life Between Flights was sponsored by me, Traveling North, produced by me and edited by Nomad Creations. Please check out the show notes for referral links, discount codes, and more resources that I've talked about in this episode. You can also follow along on our social media on Facebook and Instagram at Life Between Flights Pod. If you want help planning your next adventure, you can always check me out at travelingnorthagency.com. If you have any questions, ideas, or would like to sponsor this podcast, you can email us at lifebetweenflightspod@gmail.com.